So anyway, I went on and I got my PhD, and the second best thing was getting the PhD.
Really?
The best thing was meeting my wife, Edie.
Yeah,
That's why
Miss Edie. I love Miss Edie.
Me too. That's the best thing that ever happened to me. I met her in Madison, Wisconsin.
Now, was this before or after your PhD?
This is during and then after. Yeah. So,
During. So did you meet her in that school?
No, she graduated from the university, but she also she was working then. She was a high school teacher.
Okay.
Yeah. And we got together, and we talked on the phone a little bit, and we liked each other, but we didn't know what each other looked like. So we said, look, because she made me laugh so much, and vice versa. We had a good time, and so we said, look, even if when we meet each other, there's no sparks or anything, that's okay. We'll still go to the movies and have fun and be friends. And well, when we met, there were sparks. It was good. It was
wow.
Good. It was real good. Yeah.
Sparks are good.
Good.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. When you find somebody like that. And I never thought I'd ever find anybody like that. I mean,
wow.
I wanted too many things. Like calm down. Take the medium grade. Take the low grade. You'll never get the high grade.
Uh-huh.
And here she is, the high grade. And
wow.
for me anyway, she was.
Wow, that's awesome.
So she changed my life in so many ways. And
you know what they say, Dr. Pondillo? They say that don't spend so much time trying to find the perfect person, but there is the perfect person for you.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at it. I like to see the finger of God or the hand of my dead mother. You know what I mean?
Bring them down with a light.
Yeah, yeah. But I know that one of the reasons why we met is because of proximity. I was in Madison, she was in Madison. If I was in France, maybe I would have fallen in love with a French girl. Who knows? But it doesn't feel right to me. I want it more romantic than that,
Yeah, yeah.
But it's been a good thing, and we've been together for a long time now. So
that's awesome.
Anyway, so yeah, I was thinking about this question of purpose after you said, let's talk about purpose, and how hard it is to find it sometimes. I think you have to experience things. You have to go out and try things. Now, I had in my job. I had, I experienced this broadcasting business, and it's one thing to experience something for 2 years. It's another thing to experience the same thing almost 30 years. And I knew early on when I was in high school, this is not for me. But as I said, I have this show business thing or whatever it is. But I'm not. It's weird because I don't think I'm psychologically cut out to be in show business. To be in front of the camera. I just don't. I don't feel it. I don't know why.
Really? Why do you say that?
I don't know. I just don't. Because I think I put too much pressure on myself to be great. I have to be great all the time. I don't even know what that means, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
But I love telling stories.
Yeah.
And I love people like you who can make the words that I write better. And
bring it from 2D to 3D.
3D. That's
yes,
right.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you're awesome at that. And so
Thank
anyway,
you.
so in the Charlie Wu movie, we had that with with Janard, and then when I did a movie called Miracles on Honeybee Hill, and on that one, that's my story. That's my story of meeting the love of my life, Edie.
Wow.
Yeah. So but it's told in a different way, but it's my story, And then in this one, the one we're doing now, the one that Janard's in as well, which is called Happy New Year, Mr. Cates. It's about it's about my dad and how I was with him when he died, and I was with him a week before he died, and I just wrote everything down, everything I saw.
Now that
he was in the nursing home.
No, Dr. P. I don't think I knew that's where that story came from.
He was in the nursing home. And many of the things that Mr. Cates says, my dad said.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I wrote it. I remember we didn't use this in the movie, but when one of his girlfriends, he was like 87 years old, when he passed. One of his girlfriends came up to him, and she was in her 80s as well, and he hugged her and said, "Oh, so good to feel you." Who says that? Who says that? I've never heard that before. Oh, you say that? Okay. But
Wait,
I've never
Sharon.
heard that. You say that? So good to
My
feel
husband.
you. Well, that's great.
Sharon, my assistant, says her husband says that.
Yeah. Well, I never heard that before, so I wrote that down. And there's a little scene in the movie where a little old lady is eating cake, eating like a Happy New Year cake. And she goes, "Oh, I hate this," and she throws it on the floor. I actually saw that happen. These little men and women, these old men and women, who they kind of turn back into little babies again, you know? And they go, now Alice, you don't want to throw your food, and she's got to be in her 90s, you know?
Yeah.
So I wrote that down, and we used that in the movie as well. So that, I think, is where, you know, you get your inspiration from the things around you. And in so doing, I hope you make a really good movie. I hope. You know, you really want to touch people and make them think and make them, well, that's what you're supposed to do. Laugh, cry, think, feel. Laugh,
Definitely.
cry, think, feel. Those are the 4 things. And if you can get 2 of those, or 1 of those even, you got a pretty good movie, I think.
Now, on what you said, making movies and telling stories that touch people, my father always says, what leaves the heart reaches the heart. So if you're telling stories from a real place,
Right.
then it's going to go out of you and touch real people.
Right. I agree with that. Your dad's a very wise man. I think that's very true. Now, clearly, this is a fiction. This is a narrative story. This is not true, but there's truth in it. There's a lot of truth
Exactly.
in it, you know? And it comes from at least how I experienced truth. And then, you know, you take some of these ideas and kind of twist them and turn them into something else. Because what happens to Mr. Cates never happened to my father. Mr. Cates is the kind of guy that would run away from the nursing home all the time. My dad never did that. But he does. Mr. Cates does. He doesn't like it there, so he runs away.
Yeah.
And he runs away, and they bring him back, and he runs away. So one night, something happens where he's able to run away again. And he takes the opportunity. So he runs away back to the park, and he's thinking about his old days, his old life, you know. And it's at New Year's, remember? And I love the idea of beginnings and endings. Times that start, times that stop, and they stop and start at the same time, and all that stuff. So he goes to the park, and he reminisces, and then he meets up with Father Time. And that's the rest of the story. He talks to, it's like a Twilight Zone. He talks to Father Time. Yeah, really. And it's very sweet. It's very sweet. And I hope people like it. I mean, I want it to tug at your heart. I do.
I know it will.
I want people to think about stuff like this. Because, you know, dying and death, it's the other side of living. You know, it's everyone experiences it. Everybody thinks about it. Since we're conscious humans, you know.
And to even touch on that, Dr. Pondillo, in death there is life.
Yeah.
When a seed drops to the ground, it must die before a new plant or something springs up.
Well, you must have read the movie.
Well, you know,
It's kind of what happened.
that was my preaching moment for,
but that was
the
good,
afternoon.
No, I think there's, you know, there is a spiritual component to telling a great story. There has to be, I think. You know, you have to think about those things that mean something to your heart, you know. When you look back on your life and you say, my gosh, you know, a whole life. And everything I did in life, I didn't like to do. Well, that's not a very good life, is it? You know what I mean? You want to do what you want to do, and you want to feel good about what you do. And the weird thing is, just to go back to the radio thing. So I was in broadcasting, and I'm making a lot of money. I mean, I was. And, you know, with the big cars and all that stuff, big house in Connecticut.
Did you have rims, Dr. Pondillo?
I didn't have spinners. I wish I did. I didn't.
Spinners for the win.
That's right.
Another line from Charlie Wu.
But so then suddenly, you know, I have to leave Hartford, Connecticut, and I have to go to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I'm making 72% of what I was making. And then when I went back to school, I was making nothing. So I went from this big 3,500 square foot house to this little dumpy, you know, what would you call it? Ghetto. It was like the graduate
in the
student
ghetto.
That's right. Elvis was singing all the time. And so, you know, there's a lot of pride. There's prideful things that you have to deal with. But, you know, I knew that it was killing me. And I don't want to die. I wasn't ready to die yet, so I wasn't going to stay. And I was going to go do this other thing. And in so doing, you know, then
So at that point, you made a choice?
Yeah. I made a choice. It was a hard choice, but it wasn't as hard as many of the choices I made. It was a smart choice, actually. And so I threw myself in this education thing, and then I got this job at MTSU, and it was very bad pay. But, you know, I never wanted for anything. I always felt like I had enough money. Isn't that odd?
Wow.
I had all this money before, and I never had enough, and now I have. And so it goes back to what you were saying. Do something that you love to do. Do something that you're happy. You know, I always got the feeling when I was in broadcasting, I was making other people, really, really rich people, really rich. You know, I was doing stuff to help them stay rich.
You're making really rich people really rich.
Exactly. But I wasn't really helping anybody per se. I mean, you know, you could argue, well, you made people laugh on the air, and you know, it was fun, entertainment, all that. But I never got that feeling. Come to school though and teach at college, and you really do help people. You really do help young men and women who are, you know, confused and trying to make it and want to know which way to go. And I don't know. I love that. I love that kind of work.
And what you're saying about, even though you came into a job that the pay didn't seem the best, but you were doing it out of purpose.
Right.
And your passions lead to the purpose. And then the money and whatever else will come.
It comes.
And sometimes the mistake that we can make is we can chase the money and passion and purpose all get lost somewhere, and still, no matter what we do, don't have anything to fill that hole. So even though we may be making all this extra money, we're spending it trying to fill a hole that can't be filled by doing anything but living in our God-given purpose.
That's exactly it. And I know that what you said is so true. You're trying to fill a hole in your soul or in your being or whatever that money can't fill, and yet, you know.
Like the guy on Charlie Wu said, his life was a soul-sucking black hole.
That's right. But you know,
so many good lines from Charlie Wu.
It really is. You should, if you haven't seen it, you should see it. It's online, so you can. Now this other movie, it's not ready yet, but it will be by the end of the summer.
Okay.
And or before, but we'll really start pushing it. I hope people. Maybe you'll have me back on the show.
Oh yes,
you know,
definitely.
We can show a clip or something, and you could.
We will let you know. We'll keep you updated.
Yeah, I think you'll like this one too. This is a good one, and it's not as controversial as some. I did this controversial movie. I'm never going to do those again. I don't want to go through that again. But some people might find Mr. Cates a controversial movie because Mr. Cates is a little. How shall we put this? He's a little. He's grumpy, first of all, and he says BS a lot. He says that word a lot. Yeah, I know, he does. But that was my father, too. That was my father. Because, look, you know, he was blind in one eye. He has a heart pacemaker and a defibrillator built in. His leg hurts. His arm hurts. He can't see. He can't... Yeah, get off my lawn. You know, he's grumpy. And I understand why old people feel that way. Absolutely. You know, you just get to a point where you don't want to deal with anybody. And... but that doesn't mean that his heart wasn't in the right place. He was my dad and Mr. Cates both are good people. So, and that's what we eventually come to find out, that they do a selfless thing. Mr. Cates does a selfless act, much like my dad did with me and my brother.
Awesome. Yeah. So as we wind down, Dr. Pondillo, what lesson? If there was one lesson that individuals would take away from Mr. Cates, from Charlie Wu, that you wanted people to learn, that you could just tell in summation, what would that lesson be from each movie? I know I'm asking you a loaded question, but then also from the focus on purpose, firsthand experience. What do you want to tell the individual who, and it's okay if we go over a little bit, but what do you want to tell the individual who is looking for a way out and they don't know how to make that jump and how important it is?
Well, you've got to, I mean, it's hard to make the jump if you don't have any experience, you know. I mean, you have to try a few things, right? And I think that's important. Start trying some things, so you know what you do like and what your passion is. Or maybe you do know what your passion is. Maybe sometimes, you know, by the age of 12, you know, well, I want to play the guitar, or whatever it is.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be something on TV or on a theater or auditorium stage. And sometimes, Doc, I think we can belittle the things that God put in us that bring us and other people joy, because we can say, oh, that's nothing, but it's a passion.
Right. So the first thing is the train is going by. The first thing is
train.
Yeah.